Greetings, Internet, and welcome to the Heal and Harm Show with me, Sabrina Scott. Whether you're listening to this on YouTube or anywhere else you get your podcasts, please hit subscribe, like all that fun stuff, and give this show a little 5 stars. If you like it, if you don't, pretend that you never listened to it. Anyway, hi, we are here today with Theresa Reed, otherwise known as the Tarot Lady. And you guys might remember her from a previous episode of this show, and we just had to have her back because obviously. And today we're going to be talking all about creativity and all of that type of thing. So, Teresa, hi, how are you doing today?
Hey, Sabrina, thank you for having me back. So good to see you again. How are you?
I'm great.
Awesome.
So, I saw on the internets that you've got a book tour lined up. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, as you know, book tours are insane. They're expensive. They are a lot of effort, but they're so much fun because you do get to meet the people who might be interested in your topic. And the book that I've written is called The Book of Astrological Returns, which is a nice, concise introduction to all the returns that you may experience personally or on a more global level. And so the whole idea behind the book was because I was looking for a book. I was going through my second Saturn return and a Jupiter return and just looking for information, even though I know this stuff because I'm a practicing astrologer for a long time. And I'm like, why can't this stuff just be in one little book that I can look at for some quick guidance and tips? Why isn't there a book like this? And so I then had that idea and I approached my publisher and I said, hey, there needs to be a book like this. And they said, yeah. So that idea sparked the book, and that's what the book tour is all about, to support that book.
I love that. Like when I saw what this book was about, I was immediately excited because I feel like I love everything about the concept and it's I think so needed. And I think as witchy, tarot, astrological kind of inflected creators online, so much of the kind of content that we tend to make is about these cycles of what's the moon doing, what's the planets doing, what's everything doing, and it can feel a little bit repetitive at times. So it's so nice that you've put all this information together so that folks can take a little bit more ownership of what those cycles kind of look like in their own lives.
Yeah, and also I think it's important for like beginner astrologers or even intermediate or advanced to have different volumes so that they don't have first of all, their shelves completely clogged with a million books. Have some volumes of different topics that you can refer back to. I have some books that I always refer back to that I really love. And there just wasn't that for returns at all. And they are an important cycle. I mean, returns happen for us personally, but also globally. United States just went through their first Pluto return.
Mm.
So that kind of stuff is really fascinating to me. I love cycles. I like patterns. Pattern recognition is a tarot and astrology person's thing. That's what we're doing.
100%. I love the patterns. I love the analysis. I love all of it. So I've got two questions for you based on what you just said. So first one is, what are those books that you constantly return to for anyone who is looking to add a few of those guidebooks, compendiums, tried and true books on astrology to their bookshelf?
Okay, so first of all, I have one book that's a real old school. In fact, it's down here. I've had it for a million years. Oh, of course, now when I say it, it's not handy. Okay, so this is one of the books that I cut my teeth on. It's called The Astrologer's Handbook by Lewis and Sakoian. This thing is ragged. It is old. And every once in a while, even if you know the stuff inside and out, you draw a blank and it's like, oh, wait a minute, what the hell is that? Oh, yeah, duh. So this is a book that's always nearby. Another book that I like to keep nearby is 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack. Love that book. And people laugh when I say this, and I'm not lying. I have a copy of that book and multiple copies of that book scattered around the house. And I always laugh and say, in case there's a Rachel Pollack emergency. Again, it's like when you have those moments where your brain is like, wait a minute, where did I read that? What's a gate card again? I can go and I can refer back to them like, oh, yes. So those are two of the books. And also there's another book, it's out of print and it's wrapped in plastic, by the way. because the first person who ever did an astrology reading for me used this book. And so when I was 15, she introduced me to astrology, and the book is called How to Astroanalyze Yourself by Ilya Chamberlain. And I remember that book, I was fascinated with it. Every time I went over to my friend's house, I'd be looking at that book. And when her mother passed away, her mother left me the book because her daughter didn't care about that stuff. So
Mhm.
that book is very dear to me, and it's so well written, and it doesn't exist anymore, but I love it. So those are a couple of the books that I always have close at hand.
I love it. And you also mentioned something about the states just going through a Pluto return.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's going to be a ton of people whose ears perked up when you said that. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that means and what your kind of
Yeah.
analysis of all of that is right now?
So the way any return planet works out, whether we're talking about the solar to the Pluto, when an astrologer refers to that, what we mean is the planet, we're going to use Pluto here, Pluto goes back into the exact same sign and degree as it was when the United States was born. And so what it does then, it kind of sets the tone for the next X amount of years. Now, if you're doing a solar return for somebody, that's for a year. The next year, we know this is where there's going to be a focus of energy. That's the solar return. But for a Pluto return, it has themes of power, transformation, destruction. And oftentimes, because it only comes around every 240 some years, it coincides with the fall of an empire. And so the Pluto return is really about now it's time to tear down what we've built, and it's going to be a little bit messy for a while, even after the Pluto return is behind us, so something new can be built. That is how it works. And so the Pluto return for the United States, technically it began like, I forget the exact year off the top of my head, but a Pluto return lasts for about 15 to 20 years technically, but there's that moment, the moment that Pluto return is exact is the one that casts then the outlook for the next 200 and something years. And so sometimes because a slow moving planet like Pluto moves back and forth, you'll have more than one Pluto return chart, but the last one is the important one that sets the tone.
Mm.
And so that is what I talk about that actually in the book. It's super interesting too, because one of the things I always say to people, astrology is theory, not fact. It's theory. And so how you think it's going to show up oftentimes shows up in a surprising way that you may not anticipate. Like I thought, oh, this is going to be like, we're going to be transforming, we're going to be, super innovative, yada, yada, yada. And some of those things did happen. But what I didn't realize is that democracy here was going to really become under threat. And that's the thing the United States right now is really trying to figure out. What is democracy? What does it look like? What was the original Declaration of Independence? Was everybody included or not? How do we rectify that? Or do we not? Do we just tear it all down, start with something different? So that's something that we're going to be sorting out now that the Pluto return is officially over.
Super interesting. I feel like this is going
Yes.
to be a topic that a lot of people are going to be talking about over the next few years in this kind of like woo-woo spiritual astrology tarot witchy space. So I'm really curious to be a fly on the wall for a lot of those conversations. It should be interesting.
Well, what was very interesting is the final return chart, really shows there's themes of power that are going to be huge. So it is going to be interesting to see different takes on it. And one of the tricks also when you're looking at something like that is to not put your own spin in it, because everybody's got their astro opinions and their opinions about what that's going to mean. And I've learned, like I said before, it's all theory, because I may have some opinions or ideas, and then later on it's always like, well, I see that's how that really worked out. And if we contain some humbleness in our predictions and just keep an open mind, I think we're going to be, I don't want to say more accurate, but we're going to be more helpful in the information that we put out there. We have to be very careful about these absolutes, which some people do because that's them interjecting their opinion in it. And
Mm.
being objective is not easy. It's not easy when you're an astrologer or tarot reader. It's not easy when you're a human.
Hmm. It's definitely an interesting thing I've observed in the astrological community over the last few years, and I did an episode about that that went viral a year or two
Ooh,
ago. I did a call out though, which I almost never do, and I know that you like to keep everything none of your business. So I won't say who it is, but it is interesting to me that some folks who are big names in astrology are allowing certain biases, whether it's a political bias or something of that nature, ideological bias, to inform how they're, let's say, reading the astrology. But they're biasing themselves so much, their predictions end up being like completely wrong in terms of, let's say, who is going to win or what does it all mean or blah, blah, blah. Like to me, that's just a super interesting thing that I've observed happen in the space over the last few years. And it's tough. It's like, of course, we all do have to view things through our own lens, our own viewpoint. And that's
yes.
what makes us all like unique creators and unique individuals. And so I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that or that's a bad thing. However, I think it's so important to know when and where our lens creates limitations for us and what we are allowing ourselves to see.
Yeah, and that also requires, again, a lot of humility because, first of all, you're going to be wrong sometimes, period. Even if you're not biased, even if you're objective, you're going to be wrong sometimes. And that's okay. That's how we learn and we become better. But second of all, being objective really, it's an art form. And I'm not always objective. And I'm always very quick to say, listen, I've got an opinion about this dude or this person. So for what it's worth, this is my opinion about that. And, I'm very upfront about that. And I think that that's important. Let's be upfront. Just let people know, okay, I already have a slant here. But then I also do what I call the dragnet method.
Mm,
Dragnet is a show back. This is where now we get to talk about how old I am. There was a show back the day called Dragnet. There was Sergeant Friday. And Sergeant Friday would be taking, reports from victims of crimes. And he would always say, just the facts, ma'am. And so I think it's really important when you are, you've got a slant to acknowledge that.
mhm,
Always acknowledge it because then at least people know, okay, well, she's kind of slanted this way. And that way people also know that this might affect my interpretation.
mhm.
And it knows what I said, in fact. Okay. And then what we do is we just cover the facts. Saturn's here, blah, blah, blah. This is hitting that. That's hitting this in a good way. That's hitting that in a not so great way. And I think that then leads to a more honest interpretation instead of pretending that you didn't have that bias and you're just putting it out there.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. It's like we all are going to be biased in some kind of shape or form. It's just, are we aware of that? Or are we thinking that our own bias is actually a lack of bias, which I think is
It,
the
yeah.
problem.
I mean, we could go into a whole talk about bias and objectivity. It's a very tricky subject. I actually just taught a class on it. And it's not easy because, again, we're humans. We've had lived experiences that can color the way we think. We have our politics. We have our emotional biases. Sometimes we have like an attitude about something. And we don't, I mean, I'm always free to admit, I have a real attitude about people who hang on to their exes. I have
Mm,
an attitude about that because that is something and I tell people that I'm really, really upfront about it. I have an attitude about it. I don't think it's healthy. This is my attitude. This is my opinion. Anytime I've done readings for people too, when they ask that question, I always am pretty upfront. I have a strong opinion about this. I'm telling you this now to get this out of the way. Now let's dragnet. Just look at the facts, man, what the cards are saying.
mhm.
Get it out of the way, boom, now we know. And that way, when I say it out loud, it also helps me to pay attention when suddenly my attitude is showing up, because that is one of the questions that I always had problems with.
Absolutely. No, it totally makes sense. Like there's some things where I have got that, bias, let's say, as well when I'm reading for folks. So totally, totally hear you. And I think part of it is wanting folks to want better for themselves, I think is my bias. And so whenever people are like self-limiting of, oh, I can't do that, it can't get better than this, that's my own thing where I'm like, no, no, let's throw that attitude
Yes.
out the window and see, okay, what choices do we have? Because we always do.
Yep.
Always.
Yes. And some people think that life happens to them. And that's the thing. I'm one of these people, I'm like, listen, life happens. Sometimes things do happen to you. A lot of our choices, though, are what leads us into the situations we're in. And so it's important not to view life as it's happening to you, but what can I do with this? What can I do with this thing called life? What can I do if I have all the cards and stars stacked against me? What kind of life can I create from this? So
Hmm.
I'm with you on that. I don't like that. I don't like a defeatist mentality unless I really did get my ass kicked. Listen, my dad was a boxer and my dad was pretty good. My dad was a strong guy. I mean, when he was 5 years old, he was carrying 50-pound bags of flour. So his nickname was Samson. He went into boxing. Of course, he did as a young man, and he was pretty good. And then he got his ass whooped once. He got so defeated that he then decided, "Holy cats! I got my ass whooped. I'm done." And it's okay sometimes to admit you've gotten your ass whooped, that life hasn't been cool, that maybe there's some things we have to give up. Let it go. Not
Absolutely.
easy.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm curious if you can speak to a kind of fatalism around like astrology, because it is something that I notice a little bit more with astrological readings and charts and stuff like that, a little bit more than I see in the tarot space. Like I think the tarot space does seem to be a little bit more of an opening of like, okay, here's the options, here's the different paths available to you, here's what we can do. But with something like birth charts or astrological charts or returns or any of that stuff, do you have any advice for folks who do feel kind of pinned down or like fatalistic and like this is what it says, and so therefore I can never do blah 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 because my chart.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit? Because it always kind of hurts my feelings when I see people limiting themselves due to, let's say, something astrological.
Well, you make a really good point. Tarot is more creative in many ways. It's a visual tool. We're looking at the art, we're looking at how the images go together, and it's storytelling. It's like a picture book. And when we're storytelling, there's always different things that we can see and interpret, and it can be very personal. And astrology is math. And so we tend to look at math as absolutes, that this is the angle, this is your geometry, it's a square, it can't be anything else. And that then creates this thing where sometimes we assume, well, the chart says I'm going to be an alcoholic, guess I don't have a choice. And that's not the way it is. What the charts show, despite it being math, is these are tendencies. This is potential. This is where you can go. This is where you can go wrong. But you still have free will. And a good astrologer is going to tell you that. Now, I always talk about this all the time. I have a terrible astrology chart. It's nothing but mutable. It's a giant T square. It is a hot mess. And I've had people look at my chart and say, oh my God. And one of the things that was in my chart is, well, you're never going to have love. You're never going to find love.
Hmm.
Because I have a terrible Saturn in my fifth house of true love. And it's in this nasty square. And I was like, at the time when I remember hearing some of these things, I'm like, I've never had, for the record, folks, I've never had trouble finding love. Ever. I have never had trouble. I have always had plenty of partners, plenty of options. I've never been without a choice. I've been in a long term relationship now with a very loving husband for over 30 years. So I am proof that just because it said that in my astrology chart, and an astrologer told me that, more than one, by the way, didn't mean it would happen. As I was doing my chart, I looked at the nasty things they saw, but I'm also like, wow, they're really ignoring Aries on my seventh house cusp, which is telling me if I'm assertive, I'll get plenty of love. And so when it comes to romance, I'm incredibly assertive. If I like you, you know it. There is no denying it. I am very, very upfront, straightforward. And that's one of the reasons why I've never been without a relationship. I've always been able to say, hey, I really like you. You're really interesting. I want to get to know you. I'm not shy when it comes to love. Now, if I would listen to those other people, what would I do? Sit around and like be feeling sad about it? And the other thing that was really interesting with these astrologers who are interpreting what they're seeing by that one really awful thing is they're also not seeing that with Aries on the seventh house cusp. I'm more interested in my independence than being tied down anyways. So why are you focusing on this? Over the years, one of the things I learned is when I go get a reading from an astrologer, I always tell them, I don't care about my love life. Don't talk about it. Because it's never, I don't want to hear it because they're always going to lock in on this supposedly, allegedly horrible thing That has never worked out. Have I always made good choices in love? Hell no. I like bad boys. I like the bad, reckless boys. Of course, I made terrible choices, but I had a good time doing it. It's all in the interpretation. And so for astrologers, we always have to look at things and say, okay, here's the potential. Here's what's going to help you. You can do this. You can also choose to do whatever. It's ultimately up to you. Maybe that will teach you something, but we can't be hard and fast with those rules. And I've seen astrologers do a lot of damage. Now, if you're stubborn like me, I'm like one of those people like, I'm not going to listen to this person. I'm going to do what I want to do anyways. But a lot of people aren't like that. A lot of people will listen and take things to heart and put their agency in the hands of someone they assume is a spiritual authority. Your astrologer tarot reader is not your spiritual authority. We are interpreters, we're translators, we're giving you the information. You still have to figure out how to speak that language and how to make it work for you. And a good astrologer is going to do it. And I also see this happening a lot with things that are happening in the world. And you'll see astrologers out there saying, oh my God, this means war, that means war. And they're doing that right now. You're hearing a lot of it. And one of the things I always have to say is, we're always at war. There's always a war happening somewhere. No matter what the planets are in, there's always some idiot out there starting crap. What do you mean this is going to mean war? Could it mean war? Yeah, but then explain why, when the planets were in this, and this, we're having all these other wars. Make it make sense. So just because something has shown up historically doesn't mean that it is a reason for you to do fear mongering. Instead, we want to say, hey, Uranus and Gemini, there's potential for war, blah, 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 but we're always at war. So here's what you can do with that energy. Here's what you need to do. If you don't like the way things are going and you see this war going on, get out there, march, blah, blah, blah. Empower people. Otherwise, if you're sitting around making them feel scared, what good is that? That reminds me of those nuclear drills we had to deal with back in the day, and tornado drills and hiding under desks. Stupid. You're doing that. You're making people flipped out. Tell people the truth of what you see, but then also show them how to work with that. My husband always says, he goes, listen, if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, you're the only tarot reader I want by my side because you're not going to flip out. I'm like, exactly. Let's just deal with stuff. And that was a long-winded way of proving my point. Don't look at the negative and assume that that means this person's going to be a loser. Don't look at the positive and assume they're a winner either. I've seen plenty of people with great astrology charts who've completely biffed their lives up. You don't know what they're going to do with what they've been given. You can't see all. That's impossible.
That's so interesting. So I've actually never heard of, because I'm not an astrologer, makes sense why I wouldn't have heard about this. I've never heard of the fifth house being the house of true love.
It's a romance house. It is associated with Leo. So it's the house of children, creativity.
I knew that.
Um,
I didn't know.
yep. Our
I always associate that with the seventh.
No, seventh is partnerships and relationships of all sorts, including our open enemies. But the fifth house is romance. I mean, it's ruled by Leo. Leo rules the heart. So it's romance, it's creativity, it's leisure, it's play, it's our children, it's the things we create, the things we make, the love we make, and sexuality, by the way, is the eighth house. But still, the fifth house has a lot to say with that. Fifth house also is a fame house. A lot of times people who have a lot going on in the fifth house, they're performing artists. So all of these things are part of the fifth house.
Why I'm asking is like, I was like, I think I have Saturn in the fifth house too. And I do. I actually have a stellium in Capricorn in the fifth house. There's like so much shit going on there.
That's
Mer
why you're a creative.
Mercury, Uranus, Neptune, Saturn. Out like all this
Wow.
lot of shit in the fifth house.
Are they well aspected or poorly aspected? That's the next question.
Let's see, 4 degrees, 9 degrees, 11 degrees, 13 degrees. Like, I'm not a pro astrologer, so I don't even know how to even.
Okay, yeah, you'd have to have someone look at that.
Yeah.
So my fifth house, I've got Saturn and I've got Chiron. I got something else there, I forget, off the top of my head. But Saturn and Chiron, like big wounded stuff, like, what? Why do I have all this in here? And I'm telling you, astrologers look at that and they really diss me sometimes.
Oh,
I'm like, what the hell, man? I'm like, I'm not that bad of a person. Why are you giving me this terrible chart? But yeah, Saturn. Oh, wait, yeah, Saturn and Oh, I also have my part of fortune there too, which isn't bad. But again, we have Saturn and we have Chiron, and it's all wrapped up in this nasty T square with mutable signs. And the interesting thing is, I have found for me that again, when it comes to love, I just have a different approach. It's mostly because it's hitting my 11th house with bad aspects. I do find I have to be very discerning with my friends. That's where I tend to get into more trouble with friendships than I do with men. Men, I'm fine with, romantic relationship, no problem. Can take it or leave it. But with friendships, that's where it tends to show up a little spicier.
So interesting. I love it.
Hmm.
I love it.
It's fascinating stuff. The wonderful thing about astrology and tarot is, or any of these mystical things, is there's so much to learn. It's a huge topic. There's a million rabbit holes, a million different opinions. And that's what we have to remember. There are astro opinions, there are astro excuses. And we just have to lean in, look, and figure out what works for us. I love that both of us have busy fifth houses, though, because we do a lot of creative work. That makes so much sense to me that we have Saturn there, because here's the gift of Saturn in the fifth house. Saturn in the fifth house, if you discipline yourself, your creativity can really blow up. A lot of people who have Saturn in the fifth house, they go on to become performing artists, like a ballerina, because they're disciplined. They're getting in there. They really want their art to be something. And so that's one of the ways it can really show up in a very good way. Also, sometimes people who have fifth house Saturns, they're really serious parents. They want to make sure their kids have everything they need. They're very protective parents. I'm extremely protective parent. I have two kids. You touch my kid, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. That's the kind of parent. I've been known to threaten 7-year-olds. Trust me. So it can show up that way. It can show up also in our art, our creativity, our ability to manage our investments. So there's a lot of different ways it can show up in a good way. But a lot of people look at Saturn and they're like, oh, well, looks like I don't listen to those people.
so interesting. I love that. Well, speaking of creativity,
Yeah.
discipline and routines and rituals and all of that, I'm really curious what your creative process has evolved into, like from conception to sketching it out to drafts to writing to all of that stuff, as well as like what does your day-to-day look like as a writer? How do you structure that for yourself so that you get the most done? Like what kind of structures do you find support you in having that creativity flow in a predictable way?
That's a very Saturn and Capricorn question, by the way. And my Saturn, by the way, my Saturn is in Pisces, and Saturn hates being in Pisces. So discipline and routine, it comes to me and it doesn't come to me. And I've had to learn to be incredibly disciplined. I'm very, very, I'm not diagnosed, but very ADHD. I've got a million books, a million ideas, a million things I want to do. There's always an idea. I have a running list of ideas, of books I could write. I'm an idea machine. So I have always some kind of a creative thing brewing. And what happens for me is I have to make sure, number one, as soon as I feel something brewing, I've got to sit with it. Make sure I'm not going off in a million new directions and getting super scattered and unfocused to catch my, to make sure that, okay, let me do some research on this idea. I've got this one idea that's been in my life now for about 5 or 6 years. And I'm still not doing anything with it because I'm like, mm-mm, mm-mm. And every once in a while I get a wild hair up my butt. I need to work on this. I'm like, no, there's something about this. I think you need to leave this idea alone and leave that for somebody else. So sometimes that's what happens. I could be sitting on an idea for a long, and it just doesn't happen. Or maybe it happens much later after I've had time to ponder. So I give myself room and grace to really figure out, does this idea have legs? Could it go somewhere? Is there something that I could do with this idea that could be helpful? So it always starts off with really marinating on my idea. Because again, my tendency is to go off on a wild hair and scatter my forces. I don't like doing that because it really leads to having.
Mm.
Once I've decided that this is an idea that I need to pursue, and I really feel it in my bone, then it's time to lock it down. That's when I get incredibly disciplined, especially once I get the book deal that comes through. My life becomes nothing but discipline around making that. And so I have a very structured life. It's messy in some ways. Um, don't go peeking underneath my desk. You might find dust bunnies. But everything in my day is structured. I get up always at the same time. I have my schedule in front of me that's really rigidly listed. If it doesn't go on the calendar, it doesn't happen. And when it comes to my writing life, I will get up in the morning. I do some writing in the morning. And then I have to, catch up on the news, maybe take a walk, exercise, move my body because sitting is the devil. It's really bad for your body. And then the afternoon is going to be devoted to writing for the book, whatever book I'm working on. So there'll be a couple hours. It might be an hour, it might be 2 hours devoted to that. Any other type of writing I have to do, like for different publications I write for. So the whole afternoon gets devoted to writing. And thankfully, I have a writing room. My husband does not bother me. Phone is off. Social media is off. Everything is off and focused. So it is like very, very focused time. There's a book called Deep Work by Cal Newport, which really got to me. And I'm like, this guy's got the right idea. Shut everything up, head down. Now, I do also in the afternoon, I will have multiple projects that I'm working on at the same time. So I might write for an hour in the book, do some other writing, come back to the book for a little bit, then do a different type of writing, and then go back. And that's weird for me, but that really works with my brain. So I'll go back and forth between things. But it is still a very dedicated time to write. I've also found that my best creative writing, and this is just from years of practice, happens in the afternoon, late afternoon. So if I've got something that, I'm really stuck on with the book, I'm like, okay, listen, bitch, you're going to save that till later in the afternoon. Go have some tea, eat some almonds, have some chocolate. Now you can go on social media for a little bit, go F around for a little bit, take a walk. Now come back to it. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now we know we're going to hit it. And then what happens sometimes is I get into a groove at that time. I have to remind myself to stop and make dinner. But it's very, very structured in my own weird, unstructured way. But a lot of my time is dedicated. And one thing I will say to people who are like, oh my God, you've written so many books and you've got so much structure. I'm like, I don't have small children under my feet. There are a lot of things in my life that allow me to have this. So don't be impressed by my schedule. I do have the great luck of my children are grown. I'm not juggling a small family. My parents are gone. I'm not caregiving. I have time that I can dedicate to this, and my life is engineered for this. What about you? I mean, do you work in spurts? Do you straight through? How do you do it? Because you produce a lot of stuff.
It's a good question. I am extreme. I feel like I'm trying slightly to be a little bit less extreme, but when I've got a project kind of in my sights, like the schedule is cleared, nothing else is happening, and I'll work on that project for like 12 to 16 hours a day. Like fully like tunnel vision, like writing all day, drawing all day, painting all day, whatever it is. So I'm trying to figure out if I even want to work in a different way ever,
You
like, or just
shouldn't.
lean into it.
Now, speaking as an astrologer, let me just say this. You've got Saturn and Capricorn, you mentioned. I've got Saturn and Pisces. We're both in the fifth house. So Saturn loves structure. Saturn gets off on structure. Saturn loves being in Capricorn. Saturn rules Capricorn. That is the ultimate goat for really knuckling down and looking at that mountain saying, you know what, Tarot Lady, you go hop about here and there and jump over that stream and you're going to get to the same place as me, but I'm drilling down and going straight for it. So you're actually working with your energy in the way that makes sense for you. Whereas I'm working it in a way that makes sense for me. We're both hella disciplined, but you're tunnel vision and I'm leaping around,
Yep.
or swimming. I'm a fish, so I'm swimming around and trying to figure my way upstream. And I get there and I get it done. And I produce a ton of content, and so do you. But we're doing it in a different way, but it's still really freaking disciplined. And I have to have everything on my calendar. I'll show you my stupid little calendar.
Show me. I'm also a paper planner person. Like if it's not in,
Yes.
it doesn't happen. Personal life, work life. Oh,
Yep.
so cute. Yeah, like
All
if
my
it's not
writing duties.
If it's not written down, I'm not going to be there. Like if it's not,
Same.
if there's
Everything has to be written down.
totally, if there's no time and place, I will not be there. It is not happening. I forgot about you. Like it's not a thing.
Yeah. Same way. I have to have it written down because that gives me that structure. It gives me that, okay, I put it in my brain. Now it's staying in my brain because it's there. I put it down. And I think that I love analog. I love journals. I love writing things down. There's something about it also that really fuels my creativity. Even just sitting around journaling about my day. But planning, I love to plan. I love it.
Yep. I honestly feel the same way. I love it. And in terms of projects, like I know for me, it's so important to just be able to not think about anything else and just delve
Yes.
in it. And I know a lot of people might find it confusing. Like I've done two graphic novels now and a lot of other shit that people probably associate with me, but it's like in between those projects, there will be like months, sometimes even years at a time, like where I haven't really drawn that much. And then I'm drawing
Wow.
all the time for like, let's say a 6 month period and making a book that's like 200 pages long or whatever it is. And so I really do have these kind of extremes where I can just not do that creative practice for a little while if it like if that energy doesn't have a purpose or somewhere to kind of funnel into. Like I'm not someone that just draws for the fun of it for no reason or writes kind of for no reason. It's like it has to have somewhere to go. Otherwise, I'm just going to be in my process of like thinking.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I totally get that. I think that's something a lot of artsy people understand because I don't just write for the hell of it. You're not seeing me writing a book of poetry for myself. First of all, I'm a terrible poet. Don't ever, ever ask me to do poetry. Oh my God, I'm awful. But I mean, I don't sit around and like write like that. I read for pleasure. I love to read. But when I write, it's for a purpose. I got a book to write. I got a blog post to write. I got to put this horoscope up. So there's always a sense of responsibility and duty and a thing that needs to get done. It must be produced.
I feel exactly the same way. And so, how do you hone in on your ideas? Because like, I'm also someone with, let's say, like 1 million books that I want to write. Like right now, I've got 6 book ideas, like 4 different deck ideas. And I'm kind of thinking like, okay, like which is the order that these need to come out? Like I think I've kind of come up with an order, but how do you for yourself decide which project needs to kind of come through and be born in what order?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, sometimes, like with the Book of Returns, I'll use that one. And I've got other ideas that I want to work on, some really good ideas. I mean, I think they're good, but who knows? But, well, except the one that I've been noodling on for years. I'm like, I don't know about that idea. But with the Book of Returns, the reason why I felt like this, I don't want to say urgency to do it, is because I was in the middle of 2 returns. And I'm like, there's not enough. Why are all these books on the first Saturn return? Why is no one writing about the second? Where is the book on that? What if somebody needs guidance on that? And this Jupiter return is confusing. Where is it? And so that seeing that there was a need for something was really what got that idea brewing. And it made that idea come before some of my other ideas because I was frustrated because I couldn't find the book. And it's the same like when I wrote The Cards You're Dealt. That was the last book I wrote before this one. One of the reasons why it's a book I've always kind of wanted to write. And it's a book really about doing readings for people who are going through really heavy stuff so you don't unintentionally cause harm. Because sometimes readers open their damn mouths and say stuff that really screw people up. And I've seen it again and again. I've been to readers like that. I'm like, somebody needs to write a book on how to talk about death in a reading and how to deal with a client who's maybe grieving or breaking down. You can't go through a 6-week tarot certification course and learn that. And I've seen many readers out there unintentionally causing harm. And so it came to a point after a few years of noodling on the idea that finally I said, you know what? I'm just tired of this. Somebody needs to write a book to help people. Because the majority of the time when I was working as a reader, which I don't anymore, I wasn't sitting around just talking about tall, dark, handsome strangers. A lot of people were coming, telling me this horrible stuff that they had to get through. And I had to figure out how to deliver that information. So for both those examples, um, the whole thing behind it was I see a need. And when I start really feeling, okay, somebody needs to say something or write this, that's usually what will get my idea off the ground. If I don't feel that something is really needed or necessary, I may still love the idea and have it filed away. Um, but it's not going to come out unless I really see there's a need for it. So that's just what drives me. Is it needed? What would I be looking for if I was a new tarot reader or astrologer? I think about that a lot. What would I be looking for? What information is missing? And that's what drives it. What
I
about you?
honestly, I feel like kind of similar in a lot of ways. Like, what do people need? What is of service to people? What am I noticing that
Yep.
people are struggling with? I think the exception to that maybe is the two graphic novels, since those are kind of just more like soul projects where it's like I just needed to get something out of my system, like a kind of exorcism, and then there it is.
Yes.
So those were two selfish projects that were 100% about me. But interestingly, the feedback I've gotten from both of those has kind of been the most emotional in terms of folks really feeling seen, heard, understood, inspired, touched. Like those are kind of
Mhm,
the projects that people are most impacted by, I would say. Interesting,
mhm,
like those kind of heart projects that are about like my process, my journey, my healing, my this, my that, like my worldview, me going through something. Because those are both kind of autobiographical, kind of memoir type of vibes with some kind of magic philosophy thrown in there. So it's kind of an interesting thing that those are the ones that a lot of folks do feel kind of hits them hardest in heart.
mhm,
But the two kind of magic how-to books, like for me, those ones were kind of coming from that place too of like, what are people asking me? Because after I did Witch Body, everyone was like, okay, cool, I'm on board. Like, I agree with your take on magic and witchcraft, sweet. But now what do I do?
What do I do?
So that
Yeah.
was like, okay, here's the how to, here's the 101. I've had some people call that person cure magic for real life, a 201 kind of intermediate. For me, it's a 101, whatever. And then another problem I saw people have was like, how do I make magic a part of my lifestyle? Like how do I
Mhm.
integrate this into the everyday? Which is part of what I talk about in Witch Body as well. Is like you can use incense and candles and all of that shit, but magic, you don't really need all of that magical vibe stuff to be doing magic.
Right.
Be just in how you make your coffee in the morning, the tea that you drink, what your intention is when you're making a smoothie, like when you're cleaning your house, when you're putting on moisturizer. Like it doesn't have to be, okay, it's 6 p.m. on a Sunday. This is magic time where I put on my cloak and light on my candles. Like it doesn't have to be like that. It can look like living normal life, just with a slightly different energetic shift and intention and all of that. So a witch at home is kind of my answer to that was 18 rituals kind of divided by different areas in the house
Mhm,
and how to work with the shit that we're going to be doing every day anyway, like eating food, cleaning, skincare, like washing ourselves, shit that is just normal, like stuff that we do every day. So the point of that book basically was to help people understand, like, how do you make every day magical? Like, how can you infuse magic into your daily life without actually doing anything that anyone looking at you would see as magical? So
yes.
it's always been to kind of meet a need or to answer a question that I've received, let's say just from working with so many people over the years. Like, where do people struggle? Like, where is the hang up? And I found that that's
Yes.
where where it's been. It's interesting.
Totally. And I mean, I'm like nodding my head here because, yeah, everything you're saying about magic, too. I am very informal with my practice. I never liked that formal stuff. I'm like, I don't have time for this stuff. Do this great big giant ceremony. Let me go ahead and direct my energy. I'll burn this candle, maybe. But also, how I choose to live my life is where the magic is created. And what I seek is a drama free life. One of
Yeah.
the greatest things you could do, and you want magic, create a drama free life. Get rid of the shit disturbers, backstabbers, negative Nellies. Get rid of that negative energy around you. Put up good boundaries with people. Create peace in your home. really, the more, don't hang on to that toxic relationship that you've been in for 20 years. Who cares? Get rid of it. Peace is the greatest thing you can do, because when you have a very peaceful life, I like to say I have a boring life, a lot of magic does happen, then there's space for it. That is the most magical advice I could give anybody. Create a peaceful life. Get rid of the drama. You will be amazed at how much more money you attract, how much better your health is, um, how much better, you sleep at night, all of that.
I could not agree more. Like, I co-sign on that 100%. It's so true. And unfortunately, I don't know why this is, but I feel like a lot of the folks that I see in this kind of like woo-woo witchy tarot astrology space, like there does seem to be this kind of addiction to drama or addiction to like toxicity or excitement, because some of it isn't even the need to, let's say, banish the toxic people around you. It's
Mhm.
sometimes people need to be called out, like you're the problem, like stop engaging in whatever the thing is, like stop being in the relationship, like take ownership of your own part in it
Yep.
all. It can be a completely different life that's available to you if you just step away from some of those toxic patterns. Like it's not always other people, sometimes they're the drama.
Sometimes it's true. And it's really funny because in our last conversation, we talked about, oftentimes when you come from like a dysfunctional family, you end up leaving that family, but then you seek it out in other ways. And you don't realize that, wait a minute, I'm surrounding myself with the same thing. Why? It's like that Taylor Swift song, Hey, the problem is me. Why am I going into the same situation? What is it about that I am attracting? Why? And I can speak for myself. Anytime I've walked into those situations that have been really bad for me, sometimes I was looking to fix something. I'm a fixer. Why am I trying to fix it? Mind my own business. Mind your own damn business, Teresa. You don't have to fix everybody. You can get the hell out of there. Mind your own business. We have to recognize our own crap. You can't claim that you want peace and then go start a war with somebody. I mean, it's stupid.
Totally. So, what thoughts would you give to someone who is uncomfortable with this idea of peace?
Mm. I don't know if I can give them a good idea for that. If you're committed to not having a peaceful life, I don't know what to tell you. I have a loved one that I'm going to use as an example. I have a loved one that really took on a lot of the negative and toxic behaviors of the very dysfunctional people that we come from. And I want to be very polite when I say this because I don't want to out this person. And they did some really, really awful things, things that harmed them, things that harmed other people. That's what they learned. That's what they knew. They lived a very unpeaceful life. There was always drama. And this is someone that I had to cut off for a while. And I'm like, I'm not going to put up with this. You're always in drama because you're creating it. And it took them a long time before they finally recognized that, yes, they were doing this. And they changed their life. Their life right now is also what they would call boring, but it's very peaceful. And it took a long time for them to learn how to do that because they didn't think there was any other way. There was something that they got off about, being in a fight, being in a conflict. They were in a very conflicted, awful relationship for a long time. And now their life is really peaceful. And, it's funny because they often will say to me, I finally get what you were talking about. I get it now. I'm like, yeah. And every once in a while, they'll start sliding back into that drama. And not that long ago, they were sliding into it with a friendship. And I said, you're going right back into that. You're going right back into that. You're getting into this drama and stirring things up. You can choose to put that friendship on ice and to reclaim your peace back. And
Mhm.
they did. And they're like, you know what? You're right. Why was I doing it? Because it's a habit.
Yeah.
And you're going right back into it. You have to catch it and stop it. And so again, they live now, like I do, the boring life. But they're like, oh my God, I have so much peace. I can go do my thing. I go to work. I come home. I can live my life the way I want. I've got no drama. Yes. And you become a magical person when your energy isn't all in this stormy, negative, awful stuff. So whether you are choosing that for your personal life, your friendships, your professional life, You've got to be conscious of it. And I think it's super important to do it, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it means you got to cut a couple people off. You're going to be better for it. And sometimes also setting those boundaries with the people who really create havoc in your life. It's going to be hard. They're going to be very angry at you, but you've got to hold firm because sometimes that's the only way they're going to learn to be peaceful in your presence.
And you know what? It's interesting because I feel like there is this like incorrect notion that a chaotic life is better for creativity and
Mhm,
better for making art and making more interesting art or being more creatively inspired. Like there is this bizarre conception out in the world that that is looking back at my own life, like I was pretty chaotic as a teenager and like in my early 20s. Like I was absolutely fucking batshit crazy, to be honest with you. And I was super creative and productive. But looking back at it, all the art that I made was like low-key depressing, like pretty intense in kind of like a weird way. Like it was good, quote unquote. Like it was technically proficient. I've always been a good writer and a good artist, but looking back at it, I'm like, damn, like I was really going through something and that was really expressing itself through the work that I was making. And that's fine at a certain point in life. But looking back at it now, it's like that work was kind of boring. It wasn't, it was kind of like a narcissistic type of work that was all about my
mhm.
pain that I was going through at the time, which fair enough. I think making art when we're in pain is a great way to channel that. So I'm
Yeah.
not knocking my teenage self. But at the same time, like I know that the art that I'm able to make now, that I'm in a space of mental and emotional and physical peace, is a lot more intentional. It's more powerful. It's more
Mhm,
like I can kind of control my emotions, I can control my creativity. Whereas before it was a lot more kind of stop and start, and it was so
mhm,
overwhelming. It was like I was possessed by something. And I much prefer like this peaceful creativity vibe. I'm curious like what your thoughts are on that, this idea, I don't know, like
mhm,
creativity and peace versus chaos. Like how have you found that that's kind of played out in your own creative process in your life over time?
mhm. That's a great question. Chaos takes up a lot of space.
Mhm.
That's what we have to remember. It takes up a lot of space in your
Energy.
head. Yes,
It's
in
so
your head. And so for me, when I was living in a very chaotic time of my life, I produced nothing, nothing at all. I was completely blocked because I was so busy with that chaos. And while I did have some fun back then, I mean, I'll admit that too, because there can be fun in some of that chaos and that reckless youth. I don't look back on any of that with regret, but I was blocked. I produced nothing. I was a big zero for creativity, huge zero. And it's funny because I was a gifted artist as a child. I was very, very good with writing. My teachers always thought, oh my God, you're going to write, you're going to act, you're going to do art. I did nothing for years. Nothing. I did tarot. I did a lot of astrology, but nothing for that creative part of me. It was completely blocked. And there's many reasons for that too. It's not just being chaotic. There were other reasons too that I had to work out. Childhood crap. But that's how it played out for me. Chaos created nothing. I produced nothing. And I'm not looking back at this with regrets, but when I think about all the stuff I could have been doing and producing and making if I wasn't dealing with this BS, that is the one thing I look back on. Again, not with regrets, but oh my God, I could have gotten a leg up on this, and this. But instead, energy was wasted on
Mhm.
stupid crap. And thinking that was just the norm. This is just the way it is. No, that's not the way it is. You're making these terrible choices and you're getting sucked into this situation or that situation. It produced nothing. So for me, once my life became peaceful, that's when the creativity flourished.
Mhm.
Once when I had stability, everything flourished. Everything could grow. There was space for it. And that's why I am really, really vigilant. And every so often over the years, I've had situations that have popped up where, again, there's been some chaos, someone stirring up dust, some drama, and I find myself getting sucked in. And then as soon as that happens, I realize it's taking up space. I've got to cut this person off or put up a boundary or do something with their situation and not get involved with it so I can protect my peace, which is protecting my space to create. You can, I mean, I know some people can create when they're like strung out on drugs and they can do amazing things. And when they're in the middle of a disastrous relationship, sure, some people can do that. I can't at all. It doesn't work. Not for me.
So, at what point of your life did things start to get peaceful enough that you were able to create regularly?
When my husband and I connected, he's a very grounded Virgo, very grounded. He's a good guy. He's a good egg. Just a really, really down to earth, honest person. Yeah, I would say in my life, that was the first really honest person I've ever been with. I finally had someone I could trust. And there was no more of this crazy making. And, you know, no offense against my family. I'm not ripping on them when I say that. My family had talent for lying.
Mm.
And when you grow up in a household where there's always lying, you can't trust anybody. And so you're living constantly with this paranoia. And finally, I'm with somebody. I'm like, wow, I guess this is what it feels like to be safe.
Mm.
And so when he and I hooked up, I started my business shortly after.
Oh.
And things just settled down in my life. A lot of things settled down. My problems with, you know, an ex settled down. Everything settled down. That doesn't mean there wasn't drama here and there, but that was the turning point. Finally, it's like, I have a safe space. Oh, this is somebody who's not on my ass 24/7. That's interesting because one of the biggest problems also for me in some of my chaotic relationships that I've had was I would end up with these partners who were really like insanely jealous. And I'm not a jealous person, so it was always really weird. And it created all kinds of bizarre drama for me that I couldn't comprehend. And, you know, that's another whole long story, but it took up space. Finally, I'm with somebody who's not like that. I can just do what I want. I can be free. I'm free and I'm safe. Now I can create. Now I can do my work.
Mm. I love
That
that.
was it.
I've always kind of felt that who we end up with is one of the most important choices that we make in life.
Yes. And or if we decide not to be in a relationship is really important too. You know, because the most important thing, whether I'm with him or not, now I know, and I know myself. And of course, I'm old, so you really know yourself at this age. Trust me. You know, I'm in my 60s now. Now I'm at the age where I'm like, oh yeah, I know what it is to have peace and to be creative and to be artistic. If something happened, let's say we parted ways, I might choose to just not be in a relationship so I can really protect my peace and my creativity. I will always choose that now over anything. I must have that spaciousness, that freedom, that peace, that sanity, so I can throw all of my crazy into my art and my writing.
That totally makes sense. And it's interesting to me just to observe how many people's partners are kind of throwing off their path of creativity or work or whatever it happens to be just by being a kind of like energy suck.
Yes.
Sounds kind of bad, but it is something that I've observed so much. Like so many people's energy is just so vampirically kind of snatched in some of the connections that people entertain.
And you don't even realize it sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in relationships like that where, you know, I was with this guy who was so insanely jealous. This is before the time of cell phones, too. My God, if we were still together, I would have been like, I would have had no peace. But everything I did was like monitored. And I'm like, that's a lot of energy for this person to be putting out there, but it was taking my energy. And after I was done with the relationship, I'm, oh my God, thank God. You know, and I found that also even with certain friendships. Like if I have a friendship that's sucking up with a lot of negative energy and drama, I had this one friend a couple of years ago, lovely person, but they all seem to have drama around them. Why? Why do you also have drama? And then I would find myself worrying about them and getting again sucked. I'm like, nope, this has got to be put on ice because this is somebody that is not here in the spirit of friendship. They're here in the spirit of need and they're feeding. And I can't have that. It's impacting my ability to do what I need to do.
I'm also curious because I've experienced this and I've cut people off that were friends for this. Have you had friendships where people were jealous of your creative success or just could not be there for you to witness this part of yourself?
Oh, don't get me started on that topic.
Let's go. Let's
Yes.
go.
Oh my God. That is the worst feeling in the entire flipping world. And
Oh,
you know, the saddest thing is, yes, it's happened to me on many occasions. The saddest thing is you can't call somebody out on it because they're going to turn it around and make it look like you're a psycho or an egomaniac. But oh my God, yes.
you know what? I did have
Yes.
someone on this. So this happened when I was working on Body Magic, my most recent graphic novel, which I released summer last year, but the year before that was when I was painting it, basically. Um, and I was painting all day, every day. And this girl who is supposedly one of my best friends since time would never ask me about it.
Yep.
Like ever. Like it's like, girl, I'm spending like 12-hour days painting all day, every day, 6 days a week, and you can't ask me even one question about how is this project going? So actually
Yep.
I did end up calling her on it. I was like, I wish there was more room in this friendship for my joy and my creativity and to just create some spaciousness for that to be held because all she did was bitch about whatever the fuck it was she wanted to bitch about, some mundane crap, which fair enough, but hello, like, can we not balance that out? And she couldn't show up for it, and so our friendship actually ended over
Yep.
that.
Nope.
And I
I've
have
had that
never,
happen.
I feel totally fine about it. I
No,
really
you don't want
don't.
that. You don't want that energy around you because it's not good energy. If there's somebody who is jealous of your success or your output or whatnot, if they're putting that energy there, they are going to chip away at you in some way. And I learned that lesson in kindergarten actually. When I was 5 years old, I remember there was a contest and somehow I won the contest. It was a drawing. It wasn't anything like you did anything. And I won a poster. And I went up there and I got my poster. I was really excited. I sat down and this girl next to me pinched me as hard as she could because she was so jealous. And that was the first time I ever experienced someone being jealous of me being quote unquote successful. And I was taken aback. And again, I'm not a jealous person. That is absolutely not in my consciousness for whatever reason. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, I was horrified and it made it so I couldn't enjoy my success.
Mhm.
And that is the most horrible thing to do, to make it so someone is not enjoying their success, their hard work. But jealous people will do that. They don't want you being in your glory. They don't want you shining too brightly because somehow they think that there's not enough room on that stage for them or that they believe they deserve what you got, that you were lucky and that was a fluke and they're better and whatever. There's so many reasons why people do that, but they really, really want to bring you down in that crab bucket because if you shine, oh, God forbid. It's so weird.
Oh man, I find it disgusting. Like I'll just
Yes.
like I find it so disgusting because I think there's room for everyone to win. Like how is me making art stopping anyone else from making art or writing or it's not. Like can we just all chill? And so I
Yes.
think these people, my theory is they are triggered because we are making a living off of doing this, whether it's art, writing, tarot, spirituality, astrology, all of the
Hmm.
stuff that we're doing, working for ourselves, doing our passion. I think some people get triggered because they're not doing that. And we are a reminder that they're not doing that, but they could, but they're not. And it's easy
Yep.
to kind of live with that declining to do that or those type of choices that lead to, not this path to a different path. It's easier just to like avoid that if they don't
Hmm.
talk to us about, let's say, our success. So like I'll hear her work drama all day, but she won't hear my joy about making art. It's like it was a very interesting experience to have. And some people,
Hmm.
this lady was like in her 40s. Like some people never grow out of it. Like it's very sad,
Nope.
very sad.
Nope. There's it's interesting because people will come at you for when you have some success and you're creating things with this jealousy. And sometimes it is because they're not succeeding. But also there's sometimes I found people who are succeeding just fine that also get really weird. And I've had that experience where it's like, wait a minute, you're actually more successful than me. Why are you mad that I'm getting a little bit of a tiny spotlight over here? What is that about me that's bothering you? Why do you think that I don't deserve it? I even had one person too that would just subtly neg me and other writers. They would just say subtle things to make it sound like somehow we're not that great, that we're getting our careers because of a fluke or because we're lucky. Just little digs like that. And as soon as I see somebody doing that, I can smell that a mile away. I'm like, oh, you're really mad because we're succeeding too, and you should be the big prima donna here. What's wrong with you? There's plenty of room. That's so weird. That's so weird.
So
You
weird.
know?
I find that attitude that those folks have as like inherently uncreative. Because it's so closed-minded. Whereas in
Oh
my mind,
yeah,
creativity is more about like expansion. Like how can we, make room for everyone? Or like, wow, this person is writing books or making tarot or doing whatever in a way that I don't do, but like wonderful. They're contributing to the content.
right.
Like that's interesting. Even if I don't like their work, like it can still inspire me to do something different. Like,
Yes.
where's the downside? Like, I really don't see one. Like, even if I hate someone's work, either what they're saying or how they behave or the art, like, who cares? Just like,
Even if I don't like that person, if they're creating something great, I can sit back and say, wow, that person's been kind of a jerk, but holy cats, look at that, what they're making, that art. Wow. That I don't understand that. But again, it comes from this place of real lack. And I also think some people want a hierarchy. They
mm,
want a hierarchy where there's room for them and whoever they deem is like, good enough to be up there with them. And the rest of us are supposed to be down there, hoping to one day be at their level. I don't know. I don't understand jealousy. I don't get it. So I always find it really wigs me out, whether they're coming from a place of, not getting you or wanting to bring you down. I don't get it. There's
mhm.
room for all of us. And there's so many different creative takes on things. There's so many different ways of expressing yourself. Why not celebrate that?
Oh, I,
Again, whether I like the work or not, whether I like the person or not, if they're out there killing it, I'm going to be like, wow. It's the same, I've always hung out with musicians. I love musicians. They're like catnip for me. And musicians, can be quite competitive, but oftentimes I would see musicians really like tuning in to each other's shows, really being supportive and all of that. And I really love that.
mhm,
Even if it was music you don't like, come on now, just acknowledge it. You don't like country western? Fine, but the Handsome Family's fabulous. They're amazing. They're great lyrics. Let's just admit it and be cool and not be a jerk.
absolutely. Yeah, it's so weird.
And it's bad for you if you feel like that. Really, I believe that. That's like chipping at your heart and your soul. If you're sitting around looking at somebody else feeling angry because they're making it, that can't feel good to feel like that either. I can't imagine that. Could you imagine if I was sitting around saying, "Oh, which body? Oh, that art," because I can't do art like you, by the way. Your art's amazing. I loved Witch Body. But I mean, could you imagine? I'm just trying to imagine getting into that place where I would be sitting around saying, "Oh, look at her doing that graphic novel," because I can't do it. Do you know how stupid I would feel and how gross I would feel if I was hating on that because I couldn't do it?
So
How
weird.
weird that would be.
Yeah,
That
it's so
would be like me getting mad because Megan Fox is in the movies. I don't look like Megan Fox. I'm not an actress. She's gorgeous. Who cares? It's not, good for her. Yay. I'm not an actress. Why would I be jealous and weird about it? It's so strange. I can't put my head in that.
I honestly don't get it either because I don't feel that like loathing jealousy that people do often seem to feel. Like I'm happy for people if they have something that I don't have because if they got it, it's a sign that I can get it.
Yes.
It's possible. Like, okay, how am I going to learn from them? I can probably learn something about what they did, how they did it,
Yeah.
who they talked to, the connections that they, created or whatever it happens to be. There's a reason why. And I think it's
Hmm.
insulting when people say it's all just luck. Like it's not. It's like there's going
It's
to be
not luck.
hard work, the networking, the social media, the whatever, whatever, whatever. There's always going to be something to learn. And
Yes.
I cut ourselves off from that. Like to me, it's like let's get curious, not hateful, is always how I feel about it.
Yes. And also, one of the things I always say is if one of us can make it, we all can make it. So, if one of us, as a tarot reader, or astrologer, or artist, or writer, or whatever, makes it, don't look at that like, oh my God, that should be me, or they don't deserve it. Look at it like, wow, maybe, like you said, maybe there's something I can do here.
Exactly.
That's a much healthier attitude. That is much, much healthier than sitting around pinching the girl who won the poster. I mean, who the hell does that kind of stuff? That's really bananas,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
And it's like to
Not
me, it's
good.
all creativity unlocks when we think, okay, how can I do that? Like the creativity to me is in the how
Hmm. Yeah.
rather than
And
the why necessarily.
well, and you mentioned also about the whole idea of expansion. And when you are not sitting around with this jealous scarcity mindset, you are expanding and opening up to ideas and cool people to collaborate with and all these nifty things that you can be doing with your life. But if you're sitting there with lack and scarcity and feeling nasty towards somebody else and feeling skeptical of somebody else's success, wow, 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 you can't expand. That's very constricted, contracted energy. That's not expansive at all.
I
At
agree.
all.
I agree completely. Like it's bizarre because it's like that hating attitude, like that's not going to make anyone who feels that way more successful or happier. It's just going to lower their vibration, in my
Even
opinion.
if they got successful, you're going to feel tainted because you're going to be sitting around still thinking somewhere deep inside your head, oh, wait a minute, that person also is getting what I'm getting. I'm not getting it all. You don't need to get it all.
Yep.
Why? Why? That's weird.
It's a good point that you make, actually. It's like I do observe this in some folks who are really successful. Like a lot of them, not a lot, some of them do kind of seem to still have this like negative chip on their shoulder where they assume the worst of everybody, which is so toxic. And then it kind of infects the art that they're making. And there's a famous memoir that the drama on the internet, the discourse, I don't know if you know about this, is going on right now that I'm kind of thinking about as I'm saying this. You know what I'm talking about?
No, wait. Wait. Clarify. There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
drama going on now.
Oh, there's a drama. It's not in Witchy Land, it's not in
Oh,
Tarot,
okay.
but this lady named Lindy West was kind of a famous feminist writer from like the 2010s or whatever. And she just released a new memoir called Adult Braces, and it's going viral on the internet right now. And
Okay. I missed this.
yeah, so I've been all deep in the discourse. By the time this goes live, probably no one is going to give a shit about this memoir anymore with how fast the internet drama machine kind of moves past things. But one of the interesting things about this is in the memoir, a lot of the clips that I've seen from it, like the people that she meets on this road trip that she goes on in this book, like she just assumes the worst out of everybody. This
Hmm.
random person that she meets, like she apparently buys honey from some people in some bumfuck town and just assumes like, oh, I bet these honey people are total white supremacists because they're in this town. And it's just like very negative assumptions about everybody. And then in like kind of for no real reason. And then in the book, she also, in my opinion, tolerates some very bad treatment from her partners that she's in relationship with. And that's
Mhm.
part of what the backlash has kind of been about with this memoir is, she's telling this story of everything is cool, but we can kind of all as readers be like, hold on, everything does not seem cool. And it's like she is so in this negative headspace where she's negatively judging others, probably
Mhm.
negatively judging herself, that she can
Mhm.
no longer be objective. And then interestingly, that comes out in the work that she's making, but it's like she can't see it for whatever reason. She didn't anticipate the backlash. But a lot of the backlash is pretty much like, girl, get out of there. You deserve better. Pull yourself up by your socks and have some self-love. And it's been a really interesting thing to kind of pay attention to. Just to notice, like this person is kind of at the top of the world in terms of success and is still in
Mhm.
a space of negative assumptions about other people, negative assumptions about herself. In my estimation, has gotten herself into a very toxic marriage and toxic relationship.
Mhm.
And everyone can kind of see it except for her. And so some of the discourse is also like, should she have even written this book? Because it seems like she's in the thick of a trauma situation and she can't objectively see the trauma that she's in. So it's should we be writing books when we're in that space? Like, I don't know. I have no answer to that question. To me, it's just become this really interesting lightning rod of a situation around like self-esteem, self-love, self-worth, like trauma, but also not really being aware of what we're going through, trying to express that through a creative outlet, in this case, memoir. It's been really, really an interesting situation that has kind of taken the internet by storm. And so that's part of what I'm thinking about right now as we're talking about creativity and creating, let's say, from drama versus creating from peace. And to me, this memoir
Yeah.
is an example of what goes wrong when we create from drama and trauma without taking that distance, let's say, to kind of process. So, for instance, like my book, Body Magic, like I finished writing that in like 2019. It's a very intense trauma book, and I
Hmm.
didn't start editing that until 4 years, 5 years later, and I didn't
Wow.
start drawing it until a year after that. And so for me, it's like I needed that time to process the trauma of what I was writing about. And I think that if I had released it immediately and just kind of had it pushed through kind of really, really quickly, I think it would have been not exactly what's going on here with her memoir, but it would have been more similar to that than
Hmm.
how it actually was received because there was a lot that I took out that was just
Right.
trauma dump that really didn't need to be in there, if you know what I mean. And so
Totally.
it's interesting, right? Like that distance when we are creating works that are coming from that heart, soul, healing, trauma type of place, which I think if people are compelled to create that work, they should. I've done it. I'll
Hmm.
probably do it again in the future. Who knows? But that space between, the creativity from peace versus creativity from trauma. And if we are in trauma when we're creating, maybe having the editing process happen when we are at peace. And that was what I decided to do, was wait until I had healed a bunch of that shit to kind of go back and edit
Yep.
from that healed place instead of just releasing that trauma dump into the world.
I'm not familiar with this scenario, but it reminds me Elizabeth Gilbert also put out a recent book that got some similar flack. And I don't read. I read her. I tried to read Eat, Pray, Love. It wasn't my cup of tea. She's a great writer, by the way. And I've read Big Magic, really good book, but that's all I've read of hers. And I've heard about this book, and there's a lot of people who were like, "Hey, this is some real traumatic stuff," and yada yada yada. And I'm just not interested in reading it. But I know there was a lot of people also saying kind of the same thing, that wow, this is like a trauma dump.
Yeah, I actually did read that book. So I guess I just like memoirs about trauma. Who knows? But I did read that book, so I kind of know what you're talking about with that. And yeah, I agree. Like, I think there is an interesting choice as creatives that we can make around the creation process. And if we are, let's say, engaging in creativity as a way to process, as a way to heal, which there is actually research that creativity,
Hmm.
whether it's writing, art making, whatever it is, that can actually help heal the brain from trauma. So it makes
Yep.
a lot of us do feel compelled to create when we're in a traumatic space. I know I definitely have felt that in the past.
Same.
I've made a lot of creative work when I've been upset, traumatized, whatever, as a way to get through it. I don't talk about this a lot, but one of my books is a book of poetry that I wrote after my rape.
Okay.
Some of it is really fucking intense, but it's like I waited like 12 years to release those poems because I
Hmm.
wanted to like also have some poems around being fine and that whole process. Like I think it would have been a good idea in my mind to release those the year after when I was maybe
Right.
still in that space of being so highly activated by it. And so it's tough because these women that we're talking about, like they're professional writers, this is their livelihood.
Hmm.
There is kind of a pressure to release constant books, but and I think creating from trauma is fine. I have no beef with that. And it's like, but then we need to edit from a space of groundedness and healing and
Yes.
a little bit of distance because when we're in that traumatic space, by definition, it's impossible to have that distance with the work and edit properly. And so it just brings up a lot for me around all of this.
Totally. I mean, my fear, if I was doing stuff from a place of trauma and putting it out there before I've done some work around the healing, what if then the work is out there and I'm not prepared to deal with what comes with that?
Mhm.
And so you do have to, space is really important. I mean, I think this is becoming the big topic here, creative space, space in your mind, space in your life, having that healthy space between also really traumatic things that happen to us that we want to create from or write from. We do need the space around that too, to give it room to breathe, to take shape, and for us to trim what isn't essential and to maybe add things that are going to help that work become more beautiful, more helpful, more healing. I don't think we should put stuff out there before we're ready either. I agree with that. I totally get that. But I'm going to be now I'm going to get nosy and have to look up about this person and see the
Oh,
story about it because I'm a nosy Parker and stuff like that.
oh geez. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff to dive into with it. And I think like even if people don't like this lady, which personally like I don't, that's my kind of full disclosure. She's not my cup of tea. But that being said, it doesn't even matter that I don't personally like her.
Right.
I still want the best for her. And I think it's so interesting that she has kind of created this scenario that is giving us as a culture the opportunity to have a lot of really interesting conversations about
Yep.
memoir, about personal writing, about trauma, about, this difference between how do we perceive things versus how does the audience perceive what we do. And all of that conversation is kind of coming up into the public consciousness, which personally I find incredibly interesting.
I think it's interesting. It's funny. I have people sometimes saying I should write a memoir. My kids are even like, you should write down. I'm like, no, because the best stories are going to the deathbed with me. I don't want that out there after I'm gone. I've got some good stories, but I'm like, nah, some stuff is for me and me only to process and to, will I change my mind? Who knows? But at this point, I do not feel compelled to put a memoir of my life out there. I put enough of my stuff out there. Nobody needs to hear that stuff.
That's totally legit. And I think there is something to be said for that in the culture of oversharing. And
Hmm.
person on the internet, I think a fascinating place to be because there's a creativity in what and how we share of ourselves
Yeah.
online. And then that's a whole creative, like memoir, day by day living process in and of itself, which I find fascinating. 'Cause, like I do find social media presence to be like a creative art in a way. I think we can see it that way. But then the flip side is like people think they know us, let's say, and maybe they do, but there's also so much about myself and my life that I don't put up there that like nobody knows at all.
Same.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Same. And yeah, I mean, I also say I'm an open book, but there are chapters that are closed, that have been closed for a very, very long time, and I, I don't need to put all my opinions out there. Sometimes I'll put my opinions about certain things. I was talking on Threads today about somebody was mentioned. There's been a bunch of people talking about how much you should charge for readings.
Always a drama about that. It's crazy.
There's so much drama. So, I put my 2 cents out there on things, but there's a lot of things that I don't state my opinion about because, like, who needs it? Who cares what the tarot lady thinks about, what color socks Timothy Chalamet is wearing or who so and so is dating or this thing or that thing? There's a lot that I don't put. Every once in a while, I don't know if you do this, I'll find myself typing an opinion. I'm like, wait a minute. Nobody needs this. Delete. Do you ever do that?
I do sometimes do that, but it's not because nobody needs this. It's because it's like, oh, I don't need this.
That too.
I don't need
Yes. Yeah, no, I get that totally. So, I'm just like sometimes, my life does, I don't have to put everything out there. I used to put more like pictures of myself out there too. Um, but I just don't really do that much anymore. I do my live streams and yada, yada, yada. But pictures of my daily life, I don't put any pictures of my grandchild out there ever. I think I've shared a picture of their hand and a picture of them like jumping into a pile of leaves where you can't see their face. I am not out there running my mouths about everything going on with the grandchild or, their name, their middle name, their this, their that. I don't talk about any of that because, first of all, it really invites people into my world in a way that's probably not healthy. And we don't want that. And also, that's not my story to tell. That's their story to tell one day if they decide to do that. So, keeping some of your private life private is good for the people that you love, but also good for you.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And I think that idea of like restraint is an interesting one in this world that is obsessed with content and constant creation and constantly putting things out there.
Yes, restraint is a good word. Discernment, too. Not
Mhm.
everything needs to be out there on the internet, not every picture. We don't need to know about every meal you've had. We don't need to know that. I don't know why. I think a lot of us back in the earlier days of social media really felt we needed to, let's share this. Look at this thing I'm doing. Look at this. Now it's kind of like, nah,
Yeah.
mm, why? Who cares?
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be out there. And I'm really, really super protective of especially family. That, although I run my mouth about my siblings, but I don't put my pictures again of the grandchild. That is like,
Yeah.
you don't need to know. It's none of your business. That's
Absolutely.
sacred.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the idea of restraint and sacredness, I think, is an interesting one. Like, I don't post as much about rituals that I'm doing, or if I do, it's just like a picture, but I say literally nothing about it. Whereas I feel like maybe 10 years ago, I was like, look at my altar about all this shit. And like, I don't regret that at all. But
No, of course not.
now I'm kind of in a different place where I don't feel compelled to share that.
No. But also, the internet's a different place than it was. I really find that people have gotten bolder about being mean or judgy. And then if you have those people in your orbit that really don't want you to succeed, which we all have those, they're sitting there, they're never applauding, they're never making any nice comments, they're just watching you. And that's
It's,
kind of you.
it's totally you. And I feel like Instagram used to be nice and friendly like 10 years ago.
Not anymore.
It
It's
really was.
competitive.
It was nice though, don't you think? Like 10
Yes.
years ago, it was like the friendliest place on the internet, like 10 years ago. It was amazing. And
Not anymore. It's different.
I don't know, I'm so bummed about it because I feel like it really was more creative back then. People
It
were
was.
more collaborative, more community oriented, more just vibey. Like it was more fun back then.
Yeah, but when they started doing all that algorithm thing, it made it into a competition then. I got to monetize everything and I've got to be number one. And how many likes did I get? And it's really funny. What shocks people, is that somebody will ask me, well, what are your numbers? I'm like, I don't know. I don't look at that crap. I just post my stuff and I go about my business. Who sits there and monitors that? That's what's making people crazy. And also, again, I think one of the things that has happened with parasocial relationships and social media and people thinking suddenly they're experts and this and that, they feel really like they have a right to be mean. And it's bizarre.
It's super bizarre. So how do you protect yourself from that as someone who shows up online?
I do cut and run, though. I show up online, then I'm hell offline. I'm not,
Oh,
I'm on it far less than people think I am. It's really cut and run. I don't doom scroll. I got shit to do. I'm busy. I've got my writing schedule. I'm really, really, really super busy. And also, I really practice not taking anything personally. It's like, okay, someone doesn't like my opinion. Yeah, whatever. I ignore it. I don't respond. I don't argue. You want to leave a bad review? I don't care. That's your opinion. I'm old. I don't care. I only got so much time left on this planet. Why am I going to get mad about what some stranger said on the internet? And if a peer doesn't want to celebrate with me, doesn't want to support my work, well, I'm going to put my energy into somebody who does. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to waste my time. Because again, I think this is one of the things too, when you start getting old, you do realize, I've lost a lot of friends that have died. This last year, we've had already two of our musician buddies have passed away. One of my dear friends passed away last year. All these metal guys that I used to hang out with, they're all dying. I don't have time for what somebody on the internet thinks about how I look or smart I am or if I deserve my success. I don't have time to think about a peer who doesn't really want to support me. I've got friends in my life who are dying.
Yeah.
I'm getting old. I'm not going to waste my time on that. I think when you approach things from that perspective, and especially when you do start losing people through death and illness, and I've got also a lot of friends who are sick, you tend to look at a lot of the stuff like this is stupid. Why am I getting upset? Because somebody doesn't like me on the internet. Why am I getting upset? Because someone's talking smack or because that peer went behind my back and talked to another peer and it got back to me. Why? Who cares? I got bigger things to think about here. My time is limited. Now
Absolutely.
it's very limited.
Yeah.
I'm in my, again, I'm in my 60s. Everything changes when you get old.
Yeah.
And even though some people might say, well, you're not really, yeah, no, no, no. Believe me, my arthritis reminds me I'm old. I don't have time to worry about this crap. And I think if I would have had that attitude when I was in my 20s, oh, the freaking peace I would have felt from that. That is one of the things when you start really gaining perspective that we are here for just a very short time.
Mhm.
You can't be wasting your energy on energy vamps, jealous people, backstabbers, people who are negative, who want to bring other people down. You can't waste your time on that. You don't have time. You don't have time.
Yep. It's so true. So speaking of time, how much time do you spend
Yes.
writing per day, would you say?
Oh my God. I probably spent a total of, for me, now remember, there's things that are mixed up into my day too, because sometimes I'm doing meetings or interviews and whatnot, but probably a good 6 hours a day, 6 to 8 hours a day of writing.
Awesome.
And by the way, I also work 7 days a week.
Mhm.
So I am writing on Saturdays and Sundays. This isn't just me Monday through Friday. I wish. I've got work to do and I got things to create. And I've, again, got limited time. So I got to get as much crap done now before I'm too old or before it's expiration date time. So I tend to work 7 days a week.
So is there a reason for that? Is it mostly deadlines or is it just because you love writing so much?
Well, it's both. Sometimes it's a deadline. So I'm like, oh crap, I got to get to work. Other times it's, I just want to do it. And I will tell you, and let me see if this is you too. I can't wait to get to work every day.
Mhm.
I can't wait to sit at my damn desk and work on my latest blog post or card of the day or whatever I'm working on or book. I can't wait. I love to write so much. This is why I don't read for the public anymore. I love to write. I love it. I want to devote as much time to writing. It calls me. It's what I want to do. I'm happiest when I'm at my desk writing. And if I'm not writing, I'm reading other books and getting inspired. That is my happy place. Do you feel the same with your work?
Yeah. Like I read a lot. Like I think a lot of
So do
people
I.
realize like I read a fucking lot. And I think to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. And it's
Yep.
always weird to me when people, I don't know, don't fucking read. I just find that so odd.
That's so, it is. I grew up in a house of people who didn't read. I
Yeah.
mean, my dad read the newspaper. Let's be fair. Dad read the newspaper every single day. Mom read her gossip magazine, so they get some credit. But none of my siblings read for pleasure. They didn't read for pleasure. And I would take home a little stack of books every day, and I'd be reading those books like a total word nerd. And I don't understand it. What do you mean you don't like to read? What's wrong with you?
I agree. And like I pretty much exclusively read nonfiction. So I like
So do
to
I.
learn. I want to learn about everything. My biggest
Same.
like thing that I'm mad about is there's not enough hours in the day to read as much like knowledge as I want to squeeze into my head. Like I just want
I'm
to,
the same.
and I think being a better reader also makes you a better thinker.
Yes.
And I think that
You
that's why a
become a
lot,
critical thinker.
I think that's why a lot of people are very dumb. Like bless them, but it's a problem, I think. Like
Yep.
literacy and just basic thinking skills has gone totally out the window. Unfortunately.
Yes.
And like I
because
remember
they don't read.
back when I was in school, like even elementary school, middle school, like we would always have to read 15 minutes every day with a book as soon as we got to school. Like it was a whole thing. And like I feel like schools don't do that anymore. It's
Mhm.
like people don't really know what books are. It's like
They're on
very,
computers. They're on freaking computers.
and it's
They're
like
reading computer stuff.
that counts as reading, I guess. But I think there really is something important about putting the fucking phone away, shutting the laptop, like turning all the tech off and just sitting somewhere with a book, like where you can't get distracted by the notifications or the this or the that or the phone call or the text, and just being able to focus 100% on taking in some information and allowing
Hmm.
it to go deep and focus on
Yep.
one thing for a limited amount of time. Like I think it really does make for a more incisive, interesting, interested, curious, intelligent person. That's
Hmm.
my hot take.
Oh no, I agree with you 1,000,000%. I mean, reading is everything, and I only read nonfiction, so I have to smile. I'm the same way. And sometimes I agree too, also that I feel like there's not enough time in the day to read all the books. I've got so many books on my do read pile, it's ridiculous. But I think of this Twilight Zone episode where this guy he was being henpecked by his wife, and he just wanted to have time alone to read. I think it might have been Burgess Meredith, but anyhow, he got this watch and he could stop the world so he could go read. And then he broke the watch. Yes, and he's like, well, I broke the watch and now the whole world stopped. Well, at least I got time to read. So he went to the library and then he broke his glasses. And, and I might have this mixed up with a couple different episodes, but that episode stuck with me because I've always felt like there's not enough time to read and watch. One day I'll have enough time to read, and my damn, I won't be able to see. Watch. It'll be something stupid like that.
So on the flip side, like I one of the things that bugs me about the culture right now is I feel like there's this assumption about what downtime and relaxing, quote unquote, looks like. So for a lot of
Hmm.
people, they're just like binge watching Netflix shows. Personally, I do that like once every 2 months, maybe. But for a lot of people, like that's every night. They're like watching their Netflix, they're watching TV, they're blah, blah, blah. For me, that makes me literally want to die. Like I cannot deal. And so I'm really curious if you're like me in that way. Like I would rather read or write or work at 11 p.m. than watch some random shit on Netflix. Like, to be honest.
Well, I like balance because I do like my random shit on TV. I do like TV, but I'm very, very selective about what I watch. And, like right now I'm doing Mad Men, but I'll watch like one episode a night
Cool
and
though.
savor it.
Mad Men's
Mad
cool.
Men's so good. Yes, Mad Men's very good. So I do like TV, and there's certain things I'm very specific about what I like and what I don't like. And so it's usually like so it'll be like maybe an hour a night, but then a lot of my evening is talking with my husband, cooking. I love to cook. Cooking is my thing. Reading. I'll read a book. I like to read before I go to bed. I'll journal. So my night, I couldn't sit and just be in front of the TV for hours on end. In fact, this sounds really ridiculous, but if I want to watch a movie, sometimes I'll be like, oh, God damn it, the movie's 2 hours long. I don't want to, I'm going to have to break it up into 2 days because I don't want to be sitting there for 2 hours to watch Begonia. So I'll sometimes break a movie up just because I don't like being in front of the tube that long.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. And I'm all for balance, but I feel like a lot of folks just have no discernment and will kind of just kill time, quote unquote, and just
Yeah,
watch whatever random shit. And to me, that just feels like such a waste of life. And I would
yeah,
much rather spend that time doing something that I know is going to be stimulating and interesting for my brain, whether that's creative output or whether that is like reading or learning something or cooking something
yep.
for a walk, going to the gym, something that is more active and stimulating rather than just like 100% in a passive state.
Can't do that. That's not going to listen. Life isn't passive. I always say tarot's not a passive act. Astrology is not passive. Life is not passive. Art is not passive. Creativity is not passive. So if you're just sitting around like a lump on a log and that's what you're doing, that's not really living. So do I like being a lump on a log sometimes? Yeah, sure. I'm going to watch Mad Men tonight. We're almost through the whole thing. I'm going to watch an episode tonight. I'm rooting for Peggy. Don't tell me if you've seen it, what I need to expect. And then I will probably do my journaling tonight and read a little bit before I go to bed.
Yeah, I love
Well rounded.
all
And
around.
cooking. And the cooking is so creative. Cooking, by the way, is one of my ways to create. And my cooking is what really opened up a lot of my creativity too. When I started cooking a lot, that also became a way to tap into the creative part of myself. And that translated then into other types of creativity. I love to cook. I don't understand people who don't like to eat and don't like to cook. I'm like, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with picky eaters? Don't be a picky eater around me. We're going to have a problem. I'm very, very experimental. I'll eat anything. One time I ate, this was one of the, I was at this restaurant called Castagna in, where is it? It's in Portland. And I would go there every year. And so the chef would sometimes send out weird things because he knew we'd eat weird things. And they sent out a raw antelope heart. And so the lady, when she said,
Oh my
the
God.
waitress said, so she said, well, this is raw antelope heart, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I thought she said raw animal parts. And so I was like, what animal part are we eating? Because I didn't understand what she said. And we were all laughing. And she goes, no, it's an antelope heart. And I'm like, okay. Boom, ate it. It was delicious.
Oh,
I'll eat I'll try anything except bugs. I draw the line at bugs. There's
that's
very few things I draw the line on. Bugs, mold, but I will eat anything. I want to try it all. I'll try every cuisine. I don't care if it's a cuisine I've never heard of. Sign me up. I'll do it because I think it's really important to open your mind. Food is so art. I mean, chefs blow my mind how creative they can be. They blow my mind. I love chefs. If you're a chef, I love you. Just so you know,
I
they're
love
amazing.
I'm a big foodie myself, but I do have some constraints. Like, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm vegan. I've been vegan for like
Oh,
more.
I did not know that.
I've been vegan for like 16 years now, and I also have a nut allergy. And so a lot
Oh,
of people hear that and they're like, "Oh, you must have a really bad time and eat nothing." But like within those constraints, like I actually eat insanely well, including like Michelin star restaurants, like little
yep.
mall, like bougie places. Like I can eat pretty much wherever. And I think
Hell
part
yeah.
of that is because like people who are truly creative are going to be kind of excited by those constraints and be like, okay, well, what can I do that's going to taste fucking amazing that also this girl can eat without going to the hospital? Like, let's
Well,
see. Which I think is always to me like the test of a place and how creative the
yes.
is and how much they love their craft. Are they excited to come up with something random on the spot for me? Or I call ahead and we plan it out. Can they do that? Are they excited by that? Because sometimes constraints can also be kind of a nice kind of setting for creativity to flourish.
Absolutely. And by the way, this is a fun fact about me. I am an excellent vegetarian chef.
I love that.
Yes, because I was vegetarian for a few years, and then I didn't feel well on that diet. It didn't work for me. And then my daughter was vegetarian for many years, vegetarian slash vegan. And so I learned how to modify a whole bunch of stuff.
Love it.
Like I love like pigeon peas and rice, which is Puerto Rican, and it's normally made with pork. So I figured out a way to make it with smoked tofu. You don't know the difference. It is so good. And so I'm super, super creative with cooking. I will take a recipe, I can turn it around. If it's got meat in it and you're a vegetarian or a vegan, believe me, you will not know the difference if you're a meat eater that you're eating a vegan meal. So I got very, very good at that. I've got a lot of vegetarian and vegan cookbooks because my daughter.
I love that. And I think that's great that you try to just run with that rather than be a
Yes,
mud. Like that just shows a creative mindset more than anything else. It's like, okay, so we got some constraints. What are we going to be doing with that?
it's not that hard. Figure it out. Figure it out. And for people who get really weird about that, it's like we can make anything work. And how exciting to try something different. And by the way, if you ever get to New York City, there's a wonderful vegan restaurant called Lady Bird. I went there with my friends who are vegan, and so we got reservations. It's in the East Village because I heard it was really good. It was amazing. So for people who assume that you're going to be missing something or missing flavor if you're vegan, they're insane. They don't know what they're talking about.
Love it. That's awesome.
Lady Bird, New York City, y'all go.
right, noted. Next time I'm in New York, I haven't been back to the States in quite some time, like since before COVID, actually. But my most
Yeah,
recent trip pre-COVID was to New York City, actually.
best city in the world.
It was like February 2020 before everything kind of popped off.
Yeah, I love New York. I try to go there once a year. I
It's awesome.
love that city.
I love
There's
it.
nothing like it.
Yes,
Nothing like it.
great energy. To me, that does feel like a very creative place.
Yes, and the people there are so open. I mean, everyone says they're not friendly. I'm like, here's the thing with New Yorkers. If you're not friendly, what do you expect you're going to get back? Shut up. I love New Yorkers. I think they're awesome. They're straightforward. I don't like anything straightforward. I'd rather have you in my face and be a jerk, and I know you're that, than putting on a fake act. I don't like fake stuff. New Yorkers are real. They're down to earth, and they are super artsy and creative. Some of the most amazing art I've seen straight out of New York. I mean, oh my God. Best musicians. Love
So
it.
such a vibe. I love New York too. Just like such an interesting vibe. Cool people. Like I found
Yeah.
everyone in New York pretty authentic and no bullshit, and I love that as well. Like I think it's so good.
Even the transplants get infected with the no bullshit attitude.
Yeah. It's a vibe. It's a vibe. I'm gonna have to go back sometime soon. We'll see. But one thing I wanted to end on was this idea of agency versus passivity and
Hmm.
talking about that in terms of creativity, but also life. This is
Hmm.
a little bit philosophical, but I feel like that creative principle, like our life is kind of our biggest work of art in a way, and like our
Yes.
biggest creative output is like the quality of our life. I'm just curious what you think about that and this dance between, let's say, agency and passivity and creation and stagnation, and how a lot of people seem to kind of like get that a little bit mixed up. I'm just curious, what do you think about that?
Well, your life is a canvas.
Yeah.
It's a book. What chapters are you writing? What are you creating? We do have to think about that. I mean, consciously, what are we creating with what we have? We have to think about that. And one of the things I used to say when I was a reader is a lot of people sleepwalk through life. And then they come to the tarot table or their astrologer's table and they wonder, it's that song by the Talking Heads, how did I get here? This is not my beautiful house. How did I get here? And it's like you've just been going through the motions of what you think you should or shouldn't be doing, or you've gotten to situations that have been hard to get out of, or you've made some decisions and you're not awake at the wheel. When you are really awake and conscious and paying attention, that's when you are going to show up full on, take that agency. Doesn't matter what your astrology chart says, you're going to get out there and you're going to live your life on your terms. You're going to make brave, bold decisions and brave, bold art. It all comes from that place of being aware. Boom. As soon as you're aware, it's like, wait a minute, this isn't working. Let me change this. Or I don't like this. Let me do this. We don't have to accept what we're given. We really don't. I mean, some things we have to accept what we're given, like, the fact I have blue eyes. I'm not going to go wear contacts and try to change that. That's what I have. Um, but there are things we can absolutely turn into something amazing. You don't like it, change it. Don't like your astrology chart, find a way to work with it. Feel like you need to create, don't wait for the muse to strike. Grab her, do something. I mean, it's very simple, actually. Don't be asleep at the wheel and then bitch about how your life is.
Absolutely. Like, and on that note too, like you've had such a long career, like
Hmm.
30, would you say? Like a lot of people give up halfway to that point. So what is it that's
Hmm.
going and motivated and present and able to be so creative over time? So like a lot of people do kind of give up, and then
Hmm.
because there are going to be those ups and downs in any career,
Yeah.
but at least something like this, like what is it that's kind of helped to maintain that momentum of your creative work and just your business? Because I think business is also creative.
Business is extremely creative. It's a living entity. It's a part of yourself. It's you. I think you probably get the hint. I'm an extremely stubborn person. I'm extremely stubborn. When I want something, when I'm determined to do something, I don't care if it takes me 50 years. I don't care if it takes me past the time I'm even able to do anything. I'm going to keep going. When I want it, I'm going to do it. Nothing's going to stand in my way. You can't tell me no. I will figure out a way. I'm incredibly, incredibly stubborn. I would say I'm obsessive in some ways. And so when it came to work, I was told too I was going to fail. No one's going to pay for tarot readings. Early in my career, that's what I was told. And that was spurred me. Actually, when I decided I was going to start reading professionally, I was bartending and I was doing all these readings at the bar. And I said, people are saying, oh, gee, I'll pay you for a full time, a real reading, a longer one. And so I decided, well, maybe I should start a business doing this. And my boss went and told everybody I would fail, that nobody would pay for it. And that was exactly what I needed to hear. Because as soon as I hear that, I'm like, oh, hell no. Watch me. And his business failed, by the way, 2 years later. I've been going over 30 years. It's the same like the astrology charts. Oh, you're never going to have love. Really? Watch me. I've never had a problem because I don't take no and limitations and sit around and say, well, I guess I'm screwed. I'm like, I'm stubborn. You're going to find out how stubborn I am. If I want to do something bad enough, I will find the way. And even if it takes me a lifetime, or even if I don't do it perfectly, I'm going to do what I want to do. And by the way, I've been like that since I've been a little kid. I was a very stubborn little girl, and my parents hated that about me. But I'm not meant to be compliant. That's just not, nope, 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 not going to happen.
I
Would you
love
say it's the same with you?
Yeah.
Because you've been doing your thing a long time. There's
Yeah.
got to be stubbornness there too.
Yeah, like I've never had like a normal job. Like like I moved out at 17. I was doing like freelance modeling. I did web design, graphic design, illustration, and now I've been doing this for quite a while now. So it's always been a very like fuck you kind of
Yes,
motivator. But what's really interesting that I'm kind of sitting with now is like I don't feel the fuck you anymore because I'm at peace now. So I'm like, okay, so where's
exactly.
the motivation? It kind of has to change a little bit. And so that's kind of been an interesting thing to sit with too. Because it's like that like spunky, like fuck everyone, I'm gonna succeed thing has kind of just fallen by the wayside a little bit just because I've healed and I'm not there anymore. Like I don't feel the need to be so aggro.
I was an angry girl. I moved out at 17 also. And I had a straight job for about 2 years, and then that was it. I've never had a straight job since then. I've either bartended, waitressing and bartending is a straight job, but you have more freedom with that. You can kind of goof off and hang out with chefs. But then I've been gainfully employed doing my own thing now for over 30 years. I can't imagine any other way. I would never be good in corporate life. My God.
I would get fired for sure
It's
because I'd be
same.
mouthing off at someone who is an incompetent idiot. Like for sure.
We'd both be kicked out of the office. We'd be let out. They would like lock the door behind us. We would never be left allowed in. They probably wouldn't even give us the job in the first place. They know that we're going to say something.
For sure. Like I feel like if I had a corporate job, I would have to be in like a C-suite like leadership position to kind of steer the ship, but just like as a cog in the machine, like I could not do it. There's no way.
Mm-mm.
I don't
Nope.
need to like play those maneuvering games. Like, and I do admire people who have the skill and the know-how to do that. It's just not me. It's not
No, I'm not. I'm not good at playing politics. Nope. I would get in trouble. I would be the big mouth. I would be absolutely fired,
happy
and
part.
that's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I've come to terms with it. It is what it is. It's gonna be how it is, and that's all good.
I don't look good in a suit anyways, so it works.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so to end off, I asked you these two questions last time, so I don't know if you're gonna give me a different answer, hopefully. I don't even remember what you said actually about these two last questions that I always ask everyone at the end.
Yeah, go ahead.
Healing practice that you are doing these days. What is something that you find to be supportive of your mental and emotional and spiritual wellness these days?
Well, right now the weather's finally decent. Walking. That
Yeah.
sounds really like the stupidest thing,
Oh, it's great.
but as soon as it starts getting nice and I can do daily walks, that is really, really good for my body, my energy, my creative process, my mental health. Walking is the thing. As soon as the weather's nice, boom, you will all see me walking around my neighborhood. I love to walk.
I also love to walk. I feel like it's so underrated as
Yes.
as exercise, as a thing to do, like as an activity. Like I feel like walking is actually so fun. You get to slow down, see the world at a different pace than if you're in a car or whatever. And sometimes
Yes.
I go for a random walk and see where you end up. And you sometimes stumble upon something very interesting.
It's so good for you. There's actually a new book coming out called Walk, and I guess it's supposed to be, it's coming out in, I think, in May. And it's like they said, it's kind of like the walk version of the book Breathe, which that book changed my life. I love that book, Breathe by James Nestor. Such a good book, highly recommend it. So I'm excited about that. But walking is very, it's right now, that is my thing. I'm probably taking a walk after I'm done talking to you.
I love that. That's awesome. So good. So good. Everyone should listen to this and go for a walk. And I also love listening to podcasts when I'm going on walks.
Yes.
I
Or
listen.
I'll do meetings with people too.
Yeah.
Put on my headset, talk to my daughter, or do a meeting with, my artist or somebody like that. So I love to do meetings when I walk.
Awesome. Yeah, no, me too. I phone my mom a lot when I'm walking.
Yeah. I found my daughter a lot. We love to walk and talk.
So good. No, I love it. I love it. And so then my last question is what is something that you're not doing because you found it harmful?
Ugh, there's so many things I'm not doing because I find them harmful. But I would probably say the biggest thing right now is really reducing my time online and staying away from people as soon as they're showing me one sign that, okay, you're not a very nice person. I'm going to limit my intake. Mitch Horowitz wrote a post that I read every so often called Escape from Cruel People. And I think a lot of us will put up with people in our lives that we really shouldn't. And so, that's it. Reduce my time online and escape from cruel people. And read that post by Mitch Horowitz. It's brilliant. Every so often I have to reread it to remind myself, oh, yeah, you don't need to keep that person in your life. It's okay. Walk away, lady.
That's awesome. Such good recommendations. I love it. We always have got a choice, right? Like there's always an option. Like
Yes,
I just want to shake people. It's like that you can do something different if you want to. It's possible.
you don't have to keep that person in your life just because you're related to them or because you're in the same industry. It's okay. If they're not nice, it's okay. Protect your peace.
Do you use the block button?
I rarely use the block button on people. I just make sure that I'm just not seeing them. A lot of times I'll just mute more than anything. Then they can go run their mouths and say whatever, and they think they're having an impact, and they're not. Because I can't see them, I don't care. I rarely block. If I block somebody, it's because they're being exceptionally nasty. You're being really nasty, Elle. And I've got a couple of people around me that I know are frenemies. I don't bother. It's like if you want to watch and see what I'm doing, but I don't watch them. I don't care. I'm busy.
I love the block button. Like I feel like my attitude is
Do
the
you?
opposite. Like I block at the most slight sign of bullshit. I'm like, I'm not
I
interested.
do. I have to get better at that. I'm not good at that. I'll just like mute and out of sight, out of mind. And I don't spend as much time online to even see what they're doing. And if it's somebody that I know is a friend of me, I just don't watch what they're doing. I just am like, whatever you're doing out there, I hope you're making it, but
Fair.
I don't need to find out about it or be bothered or whatever. Go on.
I feel
Drink
like
your haterade.
I feel like I've blocked everyone who was a friend of me. I was just like, I just was like, I don't give a fuck about
You're
this.
smarter than me.
Or more trigger happy, but also like Mars and Scorpio in the third house. So
Okay, I bow down. You're Mars and Scorpio. I never, ever F with someone who's got a Mars and Scorpio. I'm surrounded by them because they will cut you off so hard. No, we don't. No, no, no. One thing in astrology, everybody needs to know your one lesson. Don't ever, ever fuck with a person with Mars and Scorpio. You leave them be. You will get stung eventually. It may take 5 years, it may take 50. They will sting you. So I respect the Mars and Scorpio. I know better.
yeah,
I'll
dude.
never piss you off, Sabrina. I promise.
Okay, good. No, you know what's
Don't
actually
cut me off.
you're good. You're good. You're safe. But you know what's so funny? The last thing I'll say about that is I find like sometimes the universe stings people for me too. Like there was someone who we had a breakup and literally that same day he got stung by like multiple wasps and like fell off his paddleboard when he had never fallen off his paddleboard before. And I didn't even do anything. I didn't even ask the universe to do anything.
It's that Scorpio vibes. If you listen, you got strong
Um,
Scorpio vibes, especially Mars and Scorpio. Those people are witchy as hell. I am not going to mess with them ever,
So funny.
ever. I know I'm going to get it. So I've learned. And all my husband, my son, and my daughter, all three have Mars and Scorpio. I have to be held to a standard here. I get away with nothing.
That is hilarious. What's your Mars in?
Virgo.
Okay.
So Mars and Virgo people are very polite. We're very polite. That's why we'll just mute, But ultimately we'll get our little revenges here and there too. But it's just much quieter. Mars and Scorpio's in your face. I'm not going to mess with the Mars and Scorpio. No, I've got to navigate these three. It's like Game of Thrones around here. I have to be Tyrion amongst the rest of the Lannisters. It's been tricky.
I love that. That's hilarious. So fun to chat with you as always. Thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me, and it's amazing. And don't cut me off with your Mars and Scorpio.
I won't. I promise. I promise. You're part of the cool collective of cool people as far as I'm concerned. So thank you so much again, and hopefully everyone enjoyed listening to this. Let us know in the comments. Share it with a friend if you found what we had to say interesting or helpful. And catch you on the next episode of the Heal and Harm Show. Bye, everyone.